Hello, friends. This is Sam Chaney reporting for Weaponized News. Today's August 25th, 2026. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday edition of Weaponized News. Quite a bit to get to today on day 178 of the Iran war as it drags on. Threats of sanctioning everybody doing deals with Iran yesterday rolled out by Treasury Department, Trump administration. Economic D-Day, it's been called. What was it? Operation Epstein. No, Operation Economic. The hell is it even called? I can't even remember. It's so stupid. Anyway, the ins and outs, the pushback from China about this, because essentially it was sanctioning everybody doing business with Iran directly and indirectly. So yeah, what was it called? Can't even remember. There's all their stupid operations. Operation Epstein Outcast, excuse me. Operation Economic Outcast launched yesterday by the Trump administration. So we got the fallout from that, world reaction. Iranians still talking a big mess. All of the roundup where we're at on day 178 of the Iran war. In the wars, man, stop the never-ending wars. It's destroying our veterans. The VA is launching Psilocybin clinical trial for veterans with treatment-resistant depression. How about putting them in these illegal foreign wars of aggression? That could also help. So we'll take a look at that, pumping up the disabled veterans with psychedelics rolled out today by the VA. Bunch of economic news as per usual. Some more fake MAGA clown influencers out of the feds as per usual. Take a look at that. Supreme Court ruling in favor of Trump. Mail-in voting. Take a look at that. A little bit of Epstein news today. Kind of light on the Epstein news, but still a little bit, as we are compelled to report every day on Epstein because Trump started a big war over it and said, look the other way, it's a Democrat hoax. Obviously, we have to report on this. What else do we got? Yeah, a whole lot of economic news, a bunch of other geopolitical news. Russia-Ukraine war dragging on. What's going on there? China's rolling out hypersonic missiles. We're still waiting for our American hypersonic missiles. Take a look at Chinese hypersonics. The demolition of Lebanon continues. The genocide in Gaza continues. And the ultra-Zionist settler attacks on the occupied West Bank continues. We have all those horrific details and much more on this Tuesday edition of Weaponized News. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I see a few people coming online now. All right, let's get to this day in history, and we'll get to all the news for you. On this day of August 25th, we go back to the year 1515. Conquistador Diego Velázquez de Celor founds Cuba in modern-day Cuba on the southeastern coast of the island. It has moved to its current location in 1519, and we're still looking for a U.S. attack, a kinetic action against Cuba, which could happen at any time as they continue to float the idea of taking over Cuba out of the State Department and the Trump White House. On this day in 1609, Galileo demonstrates his first telescope to Venetian lawmakers, get this, including the Doge ruler of Venice, Leonardo Donato, the Doge ruler of Venice, 1609. On this day, 1619. On this day in 1619, slavery begins in mainland British colonies of North America when the first known African captives, approximately 20, land at Point Comfort, Virginia, being sold or traded into servitude. And they leave out of the story, in many cases, it was aardvarks owning the ships. On this day, 1718, we saw hundreds of French colonists arrive in Louisiana, and they founded the city of New Orleans. On this day, 1814, British forces destroy the Library of Congress, which contained an estimated 3,000 books, part of the War of 1812. Big Brother loves his censorship, doesn't he? On this day, 1830, Belgium revolts against the Netherlands and begins the Belgian Revolution. On this day in 1835, the Great Moon Hoax. The New York Sun publishes the Great Moon Hoax story by John Herschel, who claimed he had discovered life, landscapes, and fantastical creatures on the moon through a powerful telescope. Literally all a hoax. On this day in 1875, Captain Webb conquers the English Channel. Captain Matthew Webb makes the first recorded unassisted swim across the English Channel in 21 hours and 45 minutes. Quite an athletic achievement for the time. 1932 on this day, Amelia Earhart completes a transcontinental nonstop flight, the first by a woman landing in Newark, New Jersey. 1941, on this day, British and Soviet troops attack pro-German Iran. 1944, on this date, we saw the liberation of Paris. German commander von Cholletz surrenders Paris to the Free French forces of Leclerc, disobeying Adolf Hitler's orders to destroy the city. President of the provincial government of the French Republic, Charles de Gaulle, gives a famous speech at the Hotel de Ville there in Paris on this day. 1950, on this day, then U.S. President Harry Truman orders the Army to take control of railroads to avert a strike. 1958, on this day, instant noodles, ramen, chicken ramen, come on the market. Momofuku and Do markets the first package of pre-cooked instant noodles, chicken ramen. Here it is. Thanks to Trump's economy, we're all eating chicken ramen here now. There it is. On this day, 1958. And then finally on this day, in 1990, UN Security Council authorizes military action against Iraq for invading Kuwait. That's a funny one. Remember old man Bush told Saddam, he said, yeah, go ahead and invade Kuwait, no problem. And then he turned around and said, you're a damn tyrant terrorist. It's like, bro, you gave him the green light to do it, and then you turn around and say that they're terrorists for doing it. It's all part and parcel working with the feds here now. All right, on this day in our civil liberties history, we go back to the year 1945. John Birch dies, right-wing group named in his honor. John Birch died on this day in China while serving as a U.S. military intelligence officer. He is regarded by some conservatives as the first American to die in the Cold War. As a result, the John Birch Society was founded in his honor on December 9, 1958. The organization became one of the leading anti-communist groups in the United States during the 1950s and 60s. The John Birch Society was so hated by liberals, who the organization repeatedly attacked for being soft on communism, that in 1961, a movement arose for a legislative investigation of the organization in California. On March 27, 1961, the ACLU wrote to California Governor Pat Brown objecting to the investigation of any group simply because of its unpopular political views. On this day, 1964, FBI spies on civil rights groups at Democrats' convention under orders from President Johnson. On this day, the FBI submitted the first reports to President Lyndon Johnson about the spying on civil rights activists at the 1964 Democrat Party convention, spying that he had specifically ordered. The Mississippi Freedom Democrat Party, April 26, 1964, sent a racially integrated delegation to the convention and demanded that it be seated rather than the official delegation, which was all white and committed to racial segregation. See the dramatic testimony of Fannie Lou Hamer, a leader of the MFDP at the convention on August 22nd, 1964. Johnson did not want any disruptions by the party to spoil his renomination for president. The FBI actions included wiretapping, the planting of informants among civil rights activists, and FBI agents posing as journalists. In submitting its reports, the FBI was careful to point out that these were the reports he had requested as a way to prove that the Bureau had presidential authority for its spying. And on this day, in 1967, J. Edgar Hoover authorizes COINTELPRO action against Black Panther Party. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover on this day authorized a COINTELPRO operation against the Black Panther Party, directing FBI agents to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit the militant African-American group. COINTELPRO, or Counterintelligence Program, was a secret FBI program directed first against the Communist Party, but later extended to other groups. The program engaged in illegal actions such as wiretapping, burglaries, theft of documents, and forging documents to discredit the targeted groups. COINTELPRO was not a rogue FBI operation, having been authorized on March 8, 1956 at a meeting of National Security Council with neither President Dwight Eisenhower nor Attorney General Hubert Brunel objecting to the planned illegal actions. COINTELPRO program was first exposed as a result of a burglary of the FBI office in Media, Pennsylvania on March 8, 1971 by a group of political activists who stole about 1,000 FBI documents. They then released them to the media. As we continue to cover, I think I remember reading that detail yesterday. Actually, I do remember it. So, yeah, we love, the feds are keeping us safe from the stage up false flag attacks they create. So, America, there you go. Here's our segue to the news. Oh, by the way, Dolly Parton died. Dolly Parton, famous country musician there, country singer. She has died at the age of 80. People magazine says, just 4 days after saying, I still have so many things I want to achieve. She was a big miracle pusher. So dry my sad eyes, funding Moderna and others, and giant push during the bad times to get miracled up, for those that can remember. So yeah, at the age of 80. Rest in peace there, Dolly Parton. Here's our segue to the news. Kill your local PDF. Trump heckled by protesters at South Carolina rally.
That's all right. That person's going home to mom, going to get scolded because mom is voting for us. You know, mom is voting. They want to make it easier. Was that a good thing? Was that good or bad? I think she said Trump Nation. I like that. I like that. I like that. Leave her alone. Don't do it. She said Trump.
They're saying kill your local PDF there at the Trump rally. And of course, MAGA turns against those protesters now. Posted by the White House earlier today. I've just been informed by the United States Navy that all mines have been removed and or detonated from within the international waters of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has been notified that any ship or boat placing new mines will be immediately and systematically destroyed through Space Force. We are watching every square inch of the strait, as we are also with Pickaxe Mountain and the already destroyed 3 other nuclear sites. There is a zero tolerance policy on mine placement in full force and effect. More shit talking from Trump here. The failing Islamic Republic of Iran is not paying large segments of their military, while at the same time killing protesters, even when they are not protesting at levels not seen before. It is a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions and must be stopped now. Like he gives a damn about the people of Iran. The sanctions they're putting in place are going to hurt Joe Blow Iranian. They're not hurting the Iranian elite. It would be laughable if it wasn't also tragic. New York Post headline, cover page there, cover. U.S. pushes world to deal final economic blow to broke Iran out of moolah, the New York Post says there. Ghalibaf, head of Iranian parliament, parliamentary speaker there, says him economic D-Day, also him 5 seconds later, LOL. Why would I want to blow up the global financial system? Sir, this isn't Normandy. This is improv night. And you forgot your script. Hashtag clown day. Gollyboff. Let's hear old Bassett from yesterday announcing the strongest economic sanctions in the history of the world, we're told, against Iran.
Let's see. You in the front.
You described this as an economic D-Day, but D-Day wasn't a threat of an invasion, and the U.S. didn't give a timeline to Germany. So why not impose the sanctions today?
Well, we are giving everyone the opportunity to remedy bad behavior. Why would I want to blow up the global financial system? We believe that it is important to level set and give people a cure period, but they should know that that will move very quickly and that we are serious. Secondary sanctions are a very powerful tool, And we here at Treasury, this is Gene Lang, the acting undersecretary for terrorism finance. And in the terrorism finance department and at OFAC, the reason we are able to use secondary sanctions is because we do not take their use lightly. So we believe that a warning shot and a level set of expectations is appropriate.
China has something to say about this. China's foreign minister condemned the Trump administration's, quote, economic D-Day against Iran, saying Beijing firmly opposes sanctions that have no basis in international law. Economic warfare and maximum pressure provide no solution. China's foreign ministry went on to say, warning, they will fuel tensions, disrupt the global economic and financial order, and hurt everyone else's interest. China said its cooperation with Iran complies with international law and vowed to do everything necessary to protect China's rights and interests. China has officially announced that it will not abide by new U.S. sanctions on Iran and that it will retaliate in kind if the U.S. imposes sanctions on China over Iran. Practically all new economic sanctions announced by the United States are falling through the cracks because China will continue to do business with all of the countries that do business with Iran. Plus, China can immediately put another ban on rare mineral exports, which blocked U.S. technology a couple of months ago, and Trump had to ask for negotiations. The only thing that remains for Trump is the naval blockade and economic sanctions directly on Iran, which even after so many years have not brought any significant results. Meanwhile, the closed Strait of Hormuz is putting enormous pressure on the petrodollar, which is now blocked because the United States has been printing dollars for years based on the petrodollar. There is now a huge inflation being felt inside the United States. It's not the lack of beef, it's the huge amounts of dollars currently sitting around previously used to pay for oil in the Middle East. The return of U.S. diplomats to their embassies in the Middle East means that Trump has decided to stop the war for now. We'll get to those reports later in the show. The U.S. can try to cut Iran out of the dollar system, but it risks accelerating the workaround already taking shape. China buys most of Iran's oil, often settled in yuan, Chinese currency. The UAE and Turkey remain key trade and re-export hubs. Washington's new secondary sanctions target shipping, gold, aviation, tech, and digital assets, but Iran and its partners have spent years building alternatives, yuan settlement, CIPS, shadow fleets, and barter deals. Sanctions can raise costs now. Over time, they may also push China and Iran to build a stronger parallel financial system beyond the dollar. That's where all of this is heading, right? As we continue to report. Iran talking shit here now. They say Scott Bassett. This is an Iran embassy in Kenya. They say Scott Bassett, any entity that have trade relations with Iran will be removed from the U.S. dollar system. Number one, no country in history has committed bigger economic genocide than the United States. This time we're ready, locked and loaded with 47 years of experience. At least now you're open about targeting the Iranian people. And in the end, it is these same people who will defeat you. Number two, by weaponizing the dollar, the U.S. empire is only accelerating the global transition away from it. You're telling every country on earth, find an alternative because you could be next. And they posted this cartoon. The U.S. has proposed canceling the new Operation Economic Outcast, lifting all sanctions and ending the U.S. blockade in exchange for Iran opening the Strait of Hormuz and stopping all attacks by its proxies, per Al Arabiya, citing a senior source on the new separate offer conveyed by Pakistan. Iran's conditions, however, remain unchanged. $300 billion in U.S. compensation, complete lifting of all U.S. sanctions, release of all Iranian frozen assets, end of the U.S. naval blockade, U.S. troops withdrawn from the entire region, and a comprehensive regional ceasefire, including Lebanon and Gaza. Iran's been consistent throughout all of this. America, Trump, bing, 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 acting like schizophrenic foreign policy out of America as per usual. I got to say, Iran has been consistent in their demands here now. In response to U.S. Treasury Secretary Bissett yesterday, who's this foreign minister spokesman, Bakwai, out of Iran, said, he said, the final stage begins today. Mission complete, mocking us here with a old George Bush meme. The final stage begins today, he said, mocking us. Mission accomplished there. Iran's talking mad shit. Wall Street Journal. What we reported at the time, we continue to report here at Weaponized News. We have no business starting a war with Iran. The intelligence community, the State Department, for God's sake, said before this happened, Iran is not an imminent nuclear threat to the United States. We're doing this to defend Aardvark land. Report out of Wall Street Journal today. We've been telling you the entire time since the war began. Days before the start of large-scale combat operations against Iran, February 28th, this year, 2026, President Trump summoned his Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, to the Oval Office in order to ask her if a war with Iran would work and successfully topple the Islamic regime. Gabbard outlined running assessments from the U.S. intelligence community, telling Trump that killing Iran's supreme leader would likely usher in a more hardline regime open to acquiring nuclear weapons, while the IRGC would rush to close the Strait of Hormuz, destabilizing the global energy market and strike U.S. forces and partners across the Middle East. The warning that came before a war now reaching the 6-month mark. And of course, this caused Joe Kent to resign his role as top counterterrorism intelligence man for America in protest of this insanity. Iran's energy minister, this dude, he's a new face on Iranian TV. That dude, he says, we have so many power plants that even if they emptied all their arsenals, they wouldn't be able to hit all our power plants or all our electrical units. While we were fighting, we were also building power plants. Not a single one of our projects was stopped. Iranian drones and missiles have done billions of damage to American intelligence sites across West Asia, the worst the CIA has absorbed since its creation in 1947. Congress is hunting for repair money. Agencies are rethinking where they can safely put people then read it alongside the Washington Post, Compost, which found the Pentagon quietly asking a bigger question, whether to rebuild at all. More than 200 U.S. facilities damaged or destroyed since the beginning of the Iran war. Options on the table include shifting the footprint westward toward Jordan and Aardvark land, away from the Iranian regime's missile range. Officials call it a once-in-a-generation chance to reconsider. The tell came before February. CENTCOM had already emptied many of those bases, judging them too exposed to defend. One official put the current posture blatantly: Iran thinks we are in the traditional places, and we are not. 70 years of Gulf architecture built on a promise to protect the host. Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar took the hits and are now watching Washington price the repairs against a retreat. What a friggin' disaster. The State Department is preparing to send diplomats back to embassies across the Middle East that were evacuated before and during the war with Iran, according to an internal document obtained by the failing New York Times. Embassies in Aardvark land, Jordan, and Oman will return to full staffing, while posts in the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Lebanon will initially cap staffing at 85%, and those in Iraq, Kuwait, and Bahrain at 75%. Family member restrictions are expected to remain in place across the Gulf and in Lebanon. How about stop sending our troops off to die in these illegal foreign wars of aggression, to die and get injured and get PTSD and all the rest of it we know our troops suffer from? How about we just stop doing that? Oh, we can't? Because global hegemony? I understand. Well, the VA launches psilocybin trial for veterans with treatment-resistant depression. They're pumping that again today. They put out this press release August 5th this year. So what, 3 weeks ago, something like that. They're pumping it today, though, out of the White House. The U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs today, this is 3 weeks ago, announced the launch of a new clinical trial to evaluate the effectiveness and safety of psilocybin mushrooms, right, to treat major depression in veterans, including those with concurrent post-traumatic stress disorder. Stop sending them to legal foreign wars of aggression. Problem solved. Oh, sorry, U.S. hegemony. Forgot. The new trial comes after President Trump's recent executive order on accelerating medical treatments for serious mental illness, which aims to increase clinical trial participation and accelerate innovative research models and drug approvals for psychedelic drugs. VA's trial, titled Psilocybin Intervention for Veterans Overcoming Treatment-Resistant Depression, or PIVOT, reflects VA's commitment to pursuing innovative solutions for veterans who have not responded to existing treatments. Far too many veterans are living with mental health conditions that don't respond to available treatment, said VA Secretary Doug Collins. Under President Trump, VA is pursuing all avenues to evaluate new treatments and offer meaningful relief for those who have worn the uniform. This clinical trial reflects another step toward this goal. So, experimenting on the troops as per usual. The randomized controlled trial will enroll veterans diagnosed with treatment-resistant major depressive disorder with or without concurrent PTSD, and will compare outcomes between two psilocybin dosage levels. The study will also assess participants' levels of depression before and after treatment. tolerability of side effects, and other patient-reported depression. The trial will be conducted in 5 locations: in Birmingham, VA, Tuscaloosa, VA, Portland, VA, where else? Crucinus, VA in Philadelphia, and Puget Sound, VA in Washington State. The health and safety of veterans who chose to participate, at least they were told they were being part of this clinical trial. Maybe some weren't. We'll have to wait and see. A la MK Ultra. Government would never do such a thing, I know. The health and safety of veterans who chose to participate in this trial is VA's top priority. Sure. The trial will be conducted in a safe, controlled clinical setting using pharmaceutical-grade drugs under careful quality controls, stringent safety protocols that were developed with the FDA. That's quite laughable. Excuse me. And in a setting that includes psychological support, MK Ultra. In addition to this trial, VA is involved in 20 active clinical trials focused on psychedelic therapies for mental health conditions. All VA research, including research into psychedelics, is conducted under strict safety protocols and in full compliance with federal guidelines. The U.S. Federal Food and Drug Administration has granted breakthrough therapy designation to several companies developing psychedelic substances, including MDMA, psilocybin, and LSD, allowing for expedited review of these drugs. Clinical use of these therapies outside of research will only be considered by VA once FDA approval is granted. I don't know. You know those red cap mushrooms? I heard they grow next to pine trees. Just saying. Just saying. VA strongly discourages self-medicating or attempting to replace other mental health treatment options with psychedelics or any other unprescribed substances. Proven evidence-based treatments are currently available at VA facilities to treat veterans with mental health conditions. Veterans should always consult their healthcare providers before making any treatment decisions. They're getting ready to experiment on the troops with psychedelics. So there you go. But check with the FDA first. Tragically enough, end all of these wars and our troops wouldn't need to be experimented on by the VA, you see. Yeah, I know. U.S. hegemony. Continuing here, some local news now. San Diego has adopted the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, equating criticism of Millet, Aardvarkland, or Zionism to anti-Semitism. Let's watch this report. I'm shaking.
Anti-Semitism has been rising in San Diego and across the country. That's according to Jewish organizations and hundreds of speakers at Tuesday's San Diego City Council meeting. Liat Cohen-Reese directs a local anti-Semitism task force. She says defining it is the city's first step to better fight it.
Well, we need language. In order to understand what something is, we need a definition, we need the language.
Nearly everyone who spoke agreed anti-Semitism needs to be combated. They disagreed on how to define it. The city adopted the definition of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, or IRA. It's been adopted by dozens of countries and cities across the U.S., including Los Angeles, Chula Vista, and El Cajon. It says anti-Semitism is, quote, a certain perception of Jews, which may be expressed as hatred. It includes 11 examples. 7 of them involve the state of Israel. Critics say the language has been used to silence criticism of Israel and support for Palestinians. One of those critics is Jewish council member Sean Elo Rivera. He says people must be allowed to both love Jewish people and speak freely against actions by the Israeli government.
A definition that cannot hold both of these things at once is not a tool for fighting anti-Semitism. It is a tool for silencing people who care about everyone.
He urged the council to consider other definitions, but he was outvoted 8-1. For more on this debate and to read the full definition, visit kpbs.org. Katie Hyson.
I don't hate you, bro, but we know who you are, okay? And so that's where we're at here. How about this ridiculous story right down the road from me? I don't know. I'm about, 30, 45 miles away from Avenel. These Clown World city council members, they were recalled out of office, and they stayed in office. Here's that report. And now finally a judge rules recalled Avenel city councils unlawfully remained in office. They need to go to jail. These people are just beyond the pale, man. So they're already recalled. Here's the local news report. And they stayed in office.
Yeah, good evening, Madison. The people who led this recall effort in the city of Avenel are calling this a major victory. Now, this all started back in September of last year after city leaders moved to create their own fire department, a decision recall organizers say was made without enough community input. But as of today, a judge has ruled these 4 recalled council members continued holding meetings after they were no longer legally entitled to their seats. Now, they could face charges.
Monday marked a moment recall leaders in Avenel have been waiting for.
It's been a long time coming. They were never supposed to hold office for this long.
The wait, nearly 3 months since the Kings County Registrar of Voters certified the recall results on May 28th. Kings County Superior Court Judge Jennifer Giuliani ruled the 4 recalled council members have unlawfully held their seats since that day. The court did agree Avenel's city clerk, not Kings County, should have overseen the recall, but the bottom line is the recall still stands.
It's really exciting that we finally have a court order, or will have a court order today.
And they tried to rig the recall. They need to throw their ass in jail, man. Ridiculous there. Supreme Court opens path for Trump mail voting restrictions ahead of the midterms. There's talk out there Trump will do an executive order, declare a national emergency, suspend the election. I'm claiming Taco Trump. I don't think he'll do it. Maybe he will. We'll see. The Supreme Court's conservative majority ruled yesterday that states suing to block President Trump's executive order restricting mail-in voting lacked legal standing to challenge it, opening a path for the order's implementation without ruling on its legality. The order signed in March would require states to submit voter eligibility lists before United States Postal Service delivers mail ballots. Ballots are set to be mailed out as early as September 4th, the date on which North Carolina will send its ballots to military and overseas voters. About 30% of 2024 ballots were cast by mail, according to federal data. The 3 liberal justices dissented, with Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, still trying to figure out what a woman is. No, excuse me. With her writing the ruling, let's another shoe drop in the Kafkaesque nightmare that our precedents have been steadily creating for plaintiffs bringing election-related suits before the court. This crazy story. Aren't all your clown influencers on the internet, aren't they all feds? It's turning out they're all feds. It's just ridiculous. MAGA clown influencer outed as a Pentagon employee in bizarre turn of events after botched scoop State Department spokesman gave her. Report out of Mediaite. Jenica Pounds, who is more well known as MAGA clownfluencer Data Republican on social media, was outed as a special government employee of the Department of War yesterday. Pounds' Pentagon employment came to light after a bizarre incident in which she claimed she was being set up by the deep state, but it was revealed she merely botched a, quote, scoop she was being handed by a State Department official. Up until June, Pounds was a member of the credentialed Pentagon Press Corps. She had not disclosed her new gig with the Pentagon. And she's deaf too, right? Allegedly. The Pentagon confirms Miss Pound serves at the Department of War as a special government employee. And I saw MAGA clownfluencers trying to make excuses. They're like, well, Elon worked as a special government employee too. This doesn't necessarily mean she's on the payroll. She's a Fed piece of shit. And so are all you apologists for her. F all you criminals, man. So this Clown World account, Data Republican, it's a Fed. Pay no attention to it. Pay no attention to it. It's a Fed. Here's some more of that video, Kill Your Local PDF, from that Trump rally.
We're going to reach the person who says neutral commentator for a change. I like neutral commentator.
You were supposed to drink this up. You saw this out for Jews and Israel. You saw this out.
He's not wrong, is he? He's not wrong. Back to this one more time. Let's blow the whistle on these Feds, blow their cover. This account right here, Data Republican, small r, that's a Fed account. So discount everything you see coming out of this account as Fed psyops and propaganda and lies. New York Department of Health reviewing doctors linked to Epstein. TMZ reports here now. The New York State Department of Health says it is taking a closer look at allegations involving doctors connected to Epstein. Remember, we went through the files. There's all kind of crazy stuff. Doctors, medical treatments, treating STDs, bionic penises, just insanity. Right? They told TMZ, that is the New York State Health Department, that the reports are deeply troubling of his relations with doctors in New York State and warrant a review. A spokesperson for the New York State Health Department told TMZ the agency cannot discuss details of ongoing investigations, but says officials are taking the allegations seriously. Yeah, we'll see about that. The spokesperson added that the department condemns any abuse by medical staff and any abuse of a physician's role that undermines patient trust and safety, including any predatory or unlawful behavior. The department declined to provide any additional comment, citing the sensitive nature of the matter. The spokesperson added, "We extend our support to all victims and survivors of medical misconduct, physical and sexual abuse." The failing New York Times investigation identified various physicians linked to Epstein, but the State Department didn't mention any specific names in its investigation. Yeah. I don't have much hope it's going anywhere. We'll see how that develops. Story out of Reuters here now. Ghislaine Maxwell loses bid to throw out conviction for aiding Jeffrey Epstein. Earlier today, a U.S. judge rejected Ghislaine Maxwell's bid to throw out her conviction of and 20-year prison sentence for helping Epstein. In a decision made public earlier today, U.S. District Judge Paul Engelmeyer in Manhattan said Maxwell's claims were all meritless and all or almost all were frivolous. He said most were based on arguments Maxwell previously lost or failed to make in challenging her December 2021 conviction, while much of the supposedly, quote, new evidence disclosed this year through the Epstein Files Transparency Act was irrelevant. On the contrary, to the extent it is relevant, far from exculping her, it incriminates her or reinforces the correctness of the legal rulings Maxwell's challenging. He wrote in his 67-page decision. He also called Maxwell's claim that prosecutors illegally withheld some evidence conclusionary, cynical, and wrong. Ghislaine Maxwell pointed finger at 25 unindicted Epstein co-conspirators to get out of jail. The judge saw right through it. Yeah. She was saying, what about, look over there, right? So ridiculous. 25 unindicted co-conspirators. She keeps bringing up here now. Over the span of 67 pages, judge wrote here, notorious PDF Epstein for bringing lengthy and rambling habeas corpus petition, only mustering meritless claims, all or almost all of which are frivolous. Maxwell's attempts to avoid this bar by claiming that new evidence shows that there were 25 men with whom victims' lawyers reached secret settlements who could equally be considered co-conspirators of Epstein's. Maxwell argues that she would have called them as witnesses at trial had she known of their existence, the judge wrote. But Maxwell does not support this factual claim. He explained her only basis for it is a transcript from May 14th, 2014 podcast featuring a lawyer for various Epstein and Maxwell victims. On the podcast, the lawyer vaguely alleged that Epstein had sent victims to be abused by, quote, certain friends who Epstein then blackmailed. The lawyer opined, so let's just say over the years, there's 25 of those individuals. This uncorroborated conjectural remark is a far cry from evidence that 25 unindicted co-conspirators exist, as Maxwell claimed, the judge stated. In short, Maxwell in no way showed how these purported co-conspirators would have exculped her at trial, or that the federal government somehow deliberately delayed her indictment to, quote, inhibit her from calling those potential witnesses in her defense. Having determined that Maxwell fell very far from the mark, judge said there was no fact that Maxwell fairly puts in dispute that has any potential to disturb the outcome of her trial. So that attempt by Maxwell failed. Good news there. All right, where are we at? We're almost at the top of the hour. We got a bunch of economic news. Let's take the live commercial break now. Everybody give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button, please. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday edition of Weaponized News. We got a big show tomorrow, actually. We have a guest, John Gold, 9/11. We're going to do the first half about 9/11 as we're coming up on the 25th anniversary of 9/11. We'll have author, activist, researcher John Gold on tomorrow to talk about 9/11. Where are we at on the 25th anniversary in our quest for an independent investigation into 9/11? So we'll talk about that tomorrow with John Gold for the first hour. Give me the like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. Everybody go to weaponizednews.com/shop. Get yourself a holograph sticker over there. White background sticker and the clear sticker. Weaponizednews.com/shop. We have baseball caps, t-shirts, coffee mugs, shot glasses. As some in the audience claim this show may induce heavy bouts of drinking. Bunch of gear over there. Weaponizednews.com/shop. Go take a look. The link's in the description below this video. We take donations as well. Buy me a coffee, Bitcoin wallet address, Cash App links, all in the description below this video. Become a paid subscriber at Weaponized News Substack. Show your support for independent reporting and analysis brought to you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern time, live Weaponized News. And I can guarantee you 100%, I'm not a Fed. Don't work with any government, never have and never will. I can guarantee you that 100%. I hate the government. I'll never work for these criminals. Become a paid subscriber at Weaponized News Substack. You'll get we're streaming there live now. You'll get the full show, a summary of the show, and links to almost everything we talk about for documentation and further research purposes. weaponizednews.com/shop and Weaponized News Substack. All the links are in the description below this video. Your support is much appreciated. Give us the like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. All of that is free. All right, welcome back to the second half of Weaponized News on this Tuesday, August 25th, 2026 edition. The trade war now kicking off with Canada. So we're back into essentially global economic trade war. What Trump always wanted, he's getting. We talked about the sanctions on Iran in the first part of the show, the pushback by China. Now Canada. Now we got to deal with Canada here. Canada announces new retaliatory tariffs on $20 billion worth of U.S. goods, directly matching Trump's tariffs dollar for dollar. The new tariffs hit U.S. steel, aluminum, furniture, clothing, electronics, seafood, and more, effective September 8th. So again, government sticks a gun in your face, robs you, you pay the price, we get jack out of it, and we get more propaganda and lies and pushes for more wars from these criminals known as the government. Out of the United States, out of Canada, it doesn't matter. All government is organized crime syndicate. Of course, right now, as it stands, America, global hegemon, is the #1 leader in organized crime. Looking like we're shifting power to the east in a new era, in a new world order, as we continue to report here. Trump says they will match the new U.S. tariff, or excuse me, Canada says they will match the new U.S. tariffs dollar for dollar. Here's that statement. We just covered that right there. and also introduce a $7.5 billion support package for Canadian workers and businesses impacted by U.S. tariffs. So they're even upping it here. It's just we let Howard Lutnick run a scam, and you and I pay the price as consumers, and the corporations get paid back. Howard Lutnick makes $1 gazillion betting against his own tariffs that they would fail, as he knew they were unconstitutional. And they all walk out gazillionaires. We're left holding the bag, paying for these tariffs. The White House posts this: President Trump is finally ending Canada's free ride. Yeah, I've always had a problem with Canada ever since I saw that comedy about the fake war with Canada, Canadian bacon. Yeah. Canada has been ripping off the United States for decades, and President Trump is done letting them get away with it. You will be part of the Greater North America Project. You will be part of the Global Technate. You will be under our regional control here now, Canada. You hear me?
That is why President Trump has drawn a new strategic map from Greenland to the Gulf of America to the Panama Canal and its surrounding countries. At the Department of War, we call this strategic map the Greater North America.
And that's going to be our region in one world government. The record of Canadian abuse is clear and deliberate, the White House says. Canada is joined only by the People's Republic of China in choosing retaliation over negotiation. Canada alone imposes discriminatory 25% tariffs on and company-specific quotas on U.S. motor vehicles, measures applied to no other country. These are facts claimed by the White House. Canada banned American wine, beer, and spirits in nearly every province and territory, while other countries have faced no such restrictions. Canada locks out U.S. dairy with tariff rate quotas far more restrictive than those given to Europe, plus overall quota tariffs of nearly 300%. Canada has extracted a persistent average annual goods trade deficit of roughly $50 billion from the United States over the last decade while refusing reciprocal access. Canada targeted American aerospace manufacturer Gulfstream for years. Canada's protectionist barriers, discriminatory auto quotas, alcohol bans, and dairy lockouts have hammered American companies. Without the United States, Canada could not survive. Canada's failed trade policies are driving its own manufacturing south. Canada is doubling down on tariffs targeting American workers. The U.S. economy is approximately 13 times larger than the Canadian economy and home to 8 times as many people. President Trump said it best: Canada is easily the most difficult and unreasonable. They feel entitled, but they are not a state and will be entitled no longer. And Trump mocking Canada here once again with the Lake of America. No more Lake Ontario. Trump has said he's thinking about renaming it Lake America right there. And then with the Lego memes coming out of the White House, Lake America right there, you can see. And they emphasize Gulf of America down there, as you can see. Lutnick's last-minute pressure sank U.S.-Canada trade talks. Isn't this bastard Lutnick, Epstein's neighbor, takes his family vacation on Epstein Island, has the weird trauma-based mind control, masks in the dentist chair at Epstein Island. How the hell is this guy U.S. Commerce Secretary? Well, to rig all these deals. The trade framework collapsed after Lutnick pushed for tougher terms on metals and autos, prompting accusations of shifting demands as Donald Trump and Mark Carney now look set for a trade war. And when you know it's this bastard Lutnick. Also, conveniently enough, he didn't show up to his job there at the World Trade Center on 9/11, while the majority of his company, Cantor Fitzgerald, did, and wound up getting killed in the collapse of the World Trade Center towers. So blame it on Lutnick, while we're in a trade war with Canada here now. Amazing. More corruption out of California. California high-speed rail board member says they want to continue work on these sections from San Francisco to Los Angeles. They just need another $126 billion with a B. Let's watch this short report about the boondoggle scam, scheme, fraud job that is California high-speed rail.
Just to be clear, as we speak right now, are the funds there to complete LA to San Francisco?
The entire amount of money we need, not there today. But do we believe we can get those funds to get the project done? Absolutely.
How much do you estimate it's going to cost to connect high-speed rail San Francisco to LA?
Today, we estimate with the right optimization, just over $125 billion. I think $126 billion is the current estimate for that.
That's more funding than Amtrak has received in its history, and still leaves a shortfall of roughly $90 billion.
That's a big gap to fill.
It is a big gap to fill, but again, we have an understanding of how to get there and to fill that gap.
A gap the authority hopes to fill with a new plan to cut costs, lure private investment, and connect to bigger cities much sooner.
That guy who was just speaking, that is a board member for the California High-Speed Rail. And what was said in that interview is that the high-speed rail project for just this section between Los Angeles and San Francisco is going to cost $126 billion. And that is more funding than the entire Amtrak system.
They're such incredible criminals. That was a report by Wall Street Apes. OpenAI's head of data centers, Chris Malone, reportedly quit the company last week. So they've had like top people, their head of, that was Anthropic's head of ethics quit. So they know it's all a giant scam. They don't want to be left holding the bag. So top executives of OpenAI and Anthropic quitting in the last couple of weeks there now. Treasury Secretary's former mentor, Druckenmiller, slams Treasury bond buyback plan. Billionaire investor Stanley Druckenmiller called Treasury Secretary Scott Bessett's bond buyback plan a mistake. He argued governments that fight market fundamentals always lose. Druckenmiller mentored, Bessett early in his hedge fund career. He made his case in a Wall Street Journal opinion column. Why Druckenmiller pushed back? Druckenmiller was responding to Bessett's push to expand bond purchases. Treasury said it would at least double its buyback operation. That lifts the ceiling from $2 billion to $4 billion per operation starting September 9th. Governments defending prices against fundamentals always lose, Druckenmiller wrote. He argued that markets aggregate information no committee can replicate, and that the long-term Treasury yield checks government borrowing. Removing that check, in his view, removes fiscal accountability. You think? We just quantitative easing part 2 here, or they've done it even more than that, right? The snake biting its own tail. And we just say everything's wonderful in the golden age. It's like, bro, you don't even have an economy. You're propping it all. Are you freaking NVIDIA? No, you're the U.S. Treasury, for God's sake. What they're doing here, man, they're destroying our economy is what they're doing. More on it. The Treasury Department could use its nearly $1 trillion general account to help finance an announced increase in purchases of long-term government bonds. They already did that little mini bailout, right? And the freaking interest went up. When was that last week? So the little mini bailout didn't even work. So hell, just throw another $2 billion or whatever the hell they're going to throw at it. Just, what a freaking disaster. More disaster here. Report out of UK Guardian. Trump EPA aims to exempt data centers from disclosing air pollution. Advocates warn. A new rule proposed by the Trump administration aims to kill public notification for data center air pollution. Public health advocates warn, and allow emission permits to be issued behind closed doors. The data centers are often sources of nitrogen oxide, which helps form ozone, carbon monoxide, and heavy metals, amongst other pollutants. The Clean Air Act requires minor air polluters to disclose to public via state agencies how much pollution their proposed project will release. But the proposed new rule from Trump's EPA would dismantle that protection from data center proposals, as it should be. You should have no water, no electricity, and they should use your children as batteries to power said data centers, right? Sure. Scientific dictatorship, technocracy. Don't be a communist. Starbucks Workers United calls for boycott with 12,000 workers. The union is fighting for a $12 per hour wage, increased staffing at restaurants, and increased hours for baristas. I don't know why people drink Starbucks, but I guess they put something addictive in there or something. So go Starbucks union there. Apple App Store sales dropped for the first time in a decade. Here's that chart. U.S. consumer spending on Apple's App Store fell for the first time in a decade in Q2, year over year. You can see right there. Boom. NVIDIA employee has been charged with smuggling advanced chips into China, according to a report out of Reuters. On June 18th, Trump bought up to $500,000 of Boeing stock. The same day, the Navy awarded Boeing an $880 million contract for P8A training systems. It's just straight up stealing. He knows the Navy's going to award Boeing this contract and buy stock ahead of the official award. MAGA loves it, I guess. Yeah. Because he donates his president's salary to a charity, we're told. It's just incredible insider trading, fraud right in our face. Number of data centers in each state by operating status. Here's a nice little chart from Pew Research. Map your data center here. You can see Virginia. I don't know why, because that's where a bunch of spies hang out. Virginia leading the charge there. Texas second, and of course California third. See if your state is in the top 15 leading the country in planned data centers. You can see currently operating and planned there. The brighter color currently operating, and the faded orange there planned in the future. So Virginia still has a little less than halfway to go. Same with Texas. We're there in California. We love the scientific dictatorship, technocracy, police state, surveillance state with cameras up everybody's rear end here. We love it in California. 12.9% of credit card balances in the United States are 90 plus days delinquent, near the highest level since 2011, according to Bloomberg. 92% of Americans have either delayed or totally abandoned medical care because of how expensive it is, according to a report out of UK Independent. In a stunning moment, Fox News just revealed that JP Morgan is predicting that we will enter a global food crisis due to Donald Trump's war in Iraq. Every American needs to see this. I don't know who's been calling this the entire time. Weaponized news. We've been calling this the entire time.
Talk about another concern. Corn, soybean, wheat conditions are all deteriorating, and JP Morgan is warning of a potential global food crisis. Could this be the beginning of that, Scott?
Well, they say it is. I mean, they'll make the argument that we're already starting that. We've had some trouble this year with our crops. Mother Nature has not been complying as well. It's not a disaster by any means, but it's just not what we thought we were going to be getting. But the real key here, for the first time in a long time, Ashley, is the fact that we've got a problem with logistics. So weather has taken a back seat. Logistics around the world has slowed up. I mean, we've heard about the Straits of Hormuz, but we've got another issue in the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov with the Kerch Straits. We've got problems there with wheat, and both of them have problems with fertilizer. And when we don't put down as much fertilizer, guess what happens to yields? So this is a cascading event. So this is a logistics issue, it's a weather issue, geopolitical issue, and they're all kind of stacking up, unfortunately, for the perfect storm, where JP Morgan sees food inflation at 5% next year. So that's not good. That could be a problem if we get any real big hiccups with Mother Nature.
It's all engineered by design. Engineered energy crisis, engineered global famine. He's talking from first world perspective. Third and fourth worlders, millions are going to starve to death as per one world government depopulation agenda. All right, where are we at here now for the price of a gallon of gasoline on day 178 of the Iran war? We're at $4.10 on average across America, according to AAA right here. $4.10. And where are we at on Iran War Energy Cost Tracker out of Brown University, Watson School for International and Public Affairs? We're now at $91.4 billion total consumer burden since the beginning of the Iran war, again on February 28, 2026. And then we're pushing to $700 almost per household. Cost spread across both gasoline and diesel. We're at $697.78. It will be $700 per U.S. household tomorrow. Oman's foreign minister met up with Iran. He said, I am hopeful we will soon announce a temporary corridor for the Strait of Hormuz and practical arrangements to restore safe navigation. Future management of the strait and a permanent solution will follow in due course, as per Article 5 of the Islamabad Memorandum. Discussions with regional partners will be conducted in support of peace and cooperation, stability, and freedom of navigation. This dude meeting up with Iranian Foreign Minister Odysee there. They say they run the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's deputy foreign minister, Gari Badi, said the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz will only happen in exchange for ending the war on all fronts, lifting the blockade, and resolving the situation in Yemen. We told Pakistan's army chief that reopening the Strait of Hormuz depends on America fulfilling its commitments under the Memorandum of Understanding. These damn Iranians are trying to hold us to a document we signed. Freaking terrorists, I tell you. Brent crude fell more than 4% today, trading near $88.30 a barrel as markets weighed softer than expected U.S. sanctions and the Iranian Oman announcement on the Strait of Hormuz. But that's not the key, right? The key is this crack diesel spread. That's the real key behind this. And as we continue to report, over $100, everything gets screwed. The price of everything gets screwed. Highly inflated. Iraq loaded nearly 11 million barrels of crude oil onto 7 tankers earlier today, marking its largest single-day surge in export activity in 3 months, according to Kepler data shared by Eurasia Group energy consulting firm. The surge follows Iran's decision Saturday to grant several Iraqi oil tankers special permission to pass through the Strait of Hormuz after repeated requests from Baghdad, according to Reuters. Iraq exports most of its oil through southern Gulf terminals, leaving it heavily exposed to the disruption at the Strait of Hormuz. So trying to get something moving through there. But a U.S. Central Command lets us know they are patrolling the region there, implementing the iron wall of the naval blockade. Department of War Undersecretary Michael pumping Skynet, essentially. Here he is on CNBC earlier today.
We're still using a lot of the weapon systems that we developed during the Cold War. And as this new type of warfare has really come upon us in the last 5 years, we've thought about what we need for the modern battlefield. And you need right now both. But I think eventually you're going to see what I call a mix shift. You're going to see the shift of dollars from what we call exquisite systems that were developed during the Cold War to more modern, mass attritable, autonomous systems driven by AI. And we're right in the center of that shift now. So you'll see a big budget.
They're building out Skynet right now.
Ask from President Trump this year for $1.5 trillion. But that's a one-time ask that then reverts to the normal baseline. And ideally what we'll see over the long term is that an arsenal that's more modern is actually easier, cheaper to maintain because we'll have the same capabilities. But right now, when you don't have everything in one side or everything in the other, you're going to have a one moment.
And forget about all those $1 systems that we bought during the Cold War. What a con job, man, these guys. More from Undersecretary Michael here.
Yeah, that's right. I would say we haven't been at it this long. Only this administration took it seriously in the last year and a half. And what we've done is we've tried to stimulate and begun to stimulate the domestic production of the components and the all-up systems for these drone manufacturers in the last year and a half. And we've done things like loaned $800 million to Performance Drone Works, who's going to make components that are otherwise only available from China or from other adversaries. And we're doing that across the domestic supply chain to make sure that they're building drones here. Even a Ukraine drone company called UDD, we're using some of their technology. So long as they build here in America, they're building a plant in Ohio. And the idea is to have a robust domestic supply chain. So if we need it, we could do.
Reverend, do you catch what he's saying there? He calls China an adversary directly and says they're building a Ukrainian drone factory in Ohio. More nonsense from Trump. He says, based on my very good relationship with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, I was not happy with the fact that the United States had long ago agreed to participate in joint military exercises with South Korea. These exercises are not only costly, with much of these costs paid for by the United States of America as usual, but send a signal that is totally inappropriate and hostile to a country that, as long as Donald J. Trump has been president, has been unthreatening and respectful. Therefore, and based on the fact that it was too late to cancel, I instructed Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to substantially reduce the joint military exercises. While somewhat unrelated, I recently asked the president of South Korea if they would like to join us in the denuclearization of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and he said no thanks. So it's punishment for South Korea not wanting to get involved in Iran war here now, and so destroying our relationships as a result of Trump's online outburst. 55% of South Koreans now view the United States unfavorably, the lowest level in 25 years. Note, South Korea, a major U.S. strategic ally, is currently led by the country's most left-wing and pro-Beijing government ever. So it turns out it's not some wacky internet hateful conspiracy. Rods of God. Aardvark Land is planning to expand its military capabilities in space, including eventually striking targets on Earth from orbit. War Minister Katz says Aardvark Land wants to be the first to develop a true space-to-ground attack capability. The broader plan also includes better satellites, encrypted communications, cyber warfare, and missile defense. One concept discussed is the United States rods from God idea, satellites dropping massive tungsten rods at extreme speed, producing bunker-busting impacts without nuclear explosives. The physics are possible, but cost, weight, and effectiveness remain major obstacle. Aardvark Land is considering roughly 16 billion shekels or $5.4 billion in space investment over the next decade, though funding is not yet assured. Well, I'm sure just we'll pay for it over here as we're linking up our militaries there. And so very exciting development. Aardvark space lasers. Aardvark Land wants rods from God. So not a hateful internet conspiracy after all. That was out of Haaretz, too, by the way. CIA Director John Ratcliffe went to Russia earlier today. CIA Director Ratcliffe first CIA director in an unannounced visit, first in nearly 5 years, for a high-level meeting with Russian officials, according to a report out of ZBS News. The last time this happened was late 2021, when CIA Director Burns, at the time, traveled to Moscow to warn Russian leadership against launching an invasion of Ukraine. A U.S. diplomatic convoy has also been seen traveling throughout Moscow under heavy police escort today. Things are intensifying there in Russia-Ukraine war. We know that much. They're blowing the hell out of each other's energy infrastructure and e-commerce logistics hubs as well. Yeah. So, unannounced CIA Director Ratcliffe visit to Moscow earlier today. And I saw other reports that the meeting didn't last very long, and he left quickly as well. So who knows what is going on there. Chinese hypersonics. Report out of UK Telegraph. China's new hypersonic missile puts U.S. on notice. Warhead capable of avoiding interception and hitting aerial targets thousands of miles away. China develops unique air-to-air hypersonic capability. Beijing has created a new maneuverable hypersonic glide vehicle, HGV, warhead designed for air-to-air use. It can avoid interception and strike aerial targets thousands of miles away. China is currently the only country known to possess this combined technology. How the HGV works. The warhead rides a ballistic missile into the upper atmosphere, then detaches and glides at more than 5 times the speed of sound while performing sharp, unpredictable maneuvers, making it extremely difficult to intercept. Primary targets: high-value support aircraft. The system is intended to hit critical rear area assets such as flying command posts, aerial refueling tankers, and electronic warfare aircraft that normally stay far from the combat zone. Knocking these out would severely degrade U.S. aerial operations. Strategic impact in a Taiwan scenario. This capability would be especially dangerous in a potential war over Taiwan, allowing China to disrupt U.S. command and control and support networks from long range. Range with DF-17 mounted on China's medium-range DF-17 missile, the GHV could travel roughly 1,500 miles, bringing it within a couple hundred miles of Guam and its major U.S. military base. Extended range with DF-27 attached to the more advanced DF-27, estimated 5,000-mile range. The same warhead could put Hawaii within reach. Broader PLA missile adaptions. Bloomberg reported that China has also added air-to-air capabilities to some existing hypersonic cruise missiles and anti-ship capabilities to other missiles. U.S. missile stockpile crisis. The news arrives as the U.S. faces severe shortages after 7 months of war with Iran. Roughly half of Patriot THAAD and PRISM inventories and about a third of PASSMs, SM-236s, and Tomahawk stocks have been expended limited U.S. interceptors. Current U.S. inventories stand at only about 820 Patriots and 280 THAAD interceptors, already making defense against a Chinese hypersonic threat more difficult than with a full arsenal. China's overall ballistic advantage. China fields more than 3,250 ballistic missiles, including the DF-41, with a range of up to 9,320 miles, capable of reaching Washington. Traditional ballistic missiles lack the maneuverability of an air-launched or HGV system, giving the new warhead a qualitative edge. So isn't that exciting? Aardvark space lasers, or the Rod of God, and Chinese hypersonic missiles. But hell, we have drone dominance according to the U.S. Department of War. Not looking good here in Russia, Ukraine. Western talks sent to Ukraine now mostly sit idle. Or tanks, excuse me, tanks. Western tanks sent to Ukraine. I remember at the very beginning of this thing, they were hyping, giving all these tanks to Ukraine, and that's going to run over Russians, and they're going to take all that land back. I remember them hyping the hell out of it. NATO, UK, America, your usual suspects. I remember that. Turns out another scheme, scam, fraud job by the military-industrial complex. The $10 million machines proved no match for cheap Jones that now dominate the battlefield. About half of one tank battalion has retired as drone operators. The remaining tanks are sometimes used to tow damaged equipment, essentially serving as expensive tractors. Of roughly 82 Abrams tanks delivered, about 25 have been hit. Sweden's 10 STRV 122 tanks are down to approximately one remaining. They're like, but here's a $10 million tank, roll it down there so a $30,000 drone can blow it up. By the way, we want $1.5 trillion for next year's Pentagon budget. Ukraine is gradually, slowly losing the war. Former War Minister Fedorov says. I think he's been saying a lot lately. Actually, he may get droned. Former War Minister Fedorov says Ukraine has only months to overhaul its war strategy, arguing weak governance, corruption, and poor integration of military technology are pushing Kiev toward defeat. Zelensky said earlier today, we received confirmation, I will not say from which country, of several Kortal air defense systems and missiles for them. We also received AIM missiles. These are very important missiles for us. We use them to shoot down enemy missiles. And frankly, I also won't say from whom, but a few more Patriot missiles have arrived. How many? I cannot say. Zelensky went on to say, Ukraine is doing everything to move the war into the sky. There you no longer have to compete in the number of soldiers. You can rely on technology, drones, and missiles. A major fire erupted at the Amur gas chemical complex in Russia's Far East, a joint venture between Simbar and China's Siopec that was weeks away from starting production. The blaze broke out on the pyrolysis unit, the plant's core cracking facility, covering roughly 2,000 square meters, At least 3 workers were killed and approximately 150 others injured. The complex was designed to produce 2.7 million tons of polymers annually, making it one of the world's largest. It had already faced years of delays after European partners exited post 2022. No evidence of external attack has been presented. The site is roughly 6,000 kilometers from Ukraine. Here's some striking images. Maybe it was just your good old industrial accident, or maybe this is part of an overall agenda targeting global energy production. You can see quite a blaze they got going on there in Russia, but not saying Ukraine did it. Russia will seize private companies that fail to defend themselves against Ukrainian drone strikes under new decree by Putin. The decree covers fuel, energy, industrial, communication. Excuse me. Excuse me. Had to sneeze there for a second. The decree covers fuel, energy, industrial, communications, transport, and logistics facilities. About everything Russia's or Ukraine's been targeting. It comes after Ukraine hit 6 ozone warehouses in 4 days, crashing its stock 30% and struck over 20 wild berries sites. Again, those are e-commerce logistics hubs and warehouses akin to America's Amazon. That is ozone and wild berries out of Russia. Russia's whacking them back, and it needs to stop. Ukraine's Odysee region on fire as Russia hammers military logistics sites there. Quite horrific. Needs to stop. And Zelensky, notice he's not saying forthright where he's getting these weapons from. UK basically said we're at war with you, Russia. Russia said the same, basically. So we're just waiting for the other shoe to drop for Russia to say we're directly at war with you, America. But they backed off of giving long-range missile capability publicly to Ukraine for the time. I gotta say, I hate to say it, I'm with the Vatican here now. Not Catholic, but Vatican's top diplomat, Archbishop Gallagher, met Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov in Moscow, declaring, "Let us be clear, this war must end." Yeah, this dude, Gallagher, top Vatican diplomat. The visit is the first high-level Vatican-Russian engagement since before the full-scale invasion. Gallagher visited Ukraine in July and meets Putin foreign policy aide Yursakov tomorrow. But I couldn't agree more. This war must end. Here's a crazy story out of Nigeria. Drop site reported earlier today. They say their correspondent, Oli Kaya, there out of Nigeria. Nigeria police raid illegal, quote, baby factory, rescue pregnant women and children. Police in Nigeria's Ogun state raided an alleged, quote, baby factory in the Mo area, rescuing 2 pregnant women and 4 young children and arresting 6 people, according to the police. Police spokesperson said officers acted on intelligence about suspected human trafficking and illegal adoption networks raiding a property in Aberdeen Village early yesterday. The rescued women, aged 23 and 20, were 7 and 8 months pregnant. 6 suspects, included a medical worker, were arrested. Investigators later traced another alleged victim, 26, to a nearby hospital. Police said she gave birth on August 20th, but the newborn was missing when officers found her. A nurse was detained as authorities searched for the infant. Police said women were allegedly recruited through offers advertising on Facebook, and that babies born through the operation were suspected of being sold through illegal adoption and trafficking networks. The investigation is ongoing. Aardvarkland War Minister Katz says occupation of southern Syria, on the occupation of southern Syria. He visited troops in southern Syria earlier today. The visit came a week after Aardvarkland carried out airstrikes on the abandoned Abdul Dahur base in northwestern Syria, saying it sought to prevent Turkish forces from deploying there. The forces occupied territory that was previously part of a UN patrolled buffer zone separating Aardvarkland and Syrian forces in the Aardvarkland occupied Golan Heights since 1974. There is daily activity here that to thwart threats to eliminate remnants of the old regime, to prevent dangerous consolidation of the new regime, Katz said, according to a video statement released by his office. The message is clear to the president of Syria as well. When you wake up in the morning in your palace in Damascus, look up at Mount Hermon and see the IDF. You know we are here to protect our communities and our border, Katz added. He also said, as long as there are threats, the IDF will remain here to guarantee our security. This is what we have done, and this is what we intend to continue doing in the future. So isn't that nice? You can wake up in Damascus and look up at the hill and see this. It's all for their own security, though, obviously. More on the fallout from Turkey over the Aardvarkland bombing of Syria. Trump envoy Tom Barak on the SDF's dissolution. They're consolidating the Syrian military right now. He said, absolutely historic. POTUS's far-sighted leadership opened the path for the SDF's orderly integration into Syrian state institutions, transforming past division into lasting partnership, recognizing the Kurdish language in education, and securing substantive roles for Mazloum Abdi and Iham Ahmed within the Syrian government, pays due respect to their leadership and sacrifices of our Kurdish partners. This is what real integration looks like, not winners and losers, but former counterparts crafting a diplomatic solution, one army, one government, one state, with illegal Aardvarkland settlements. I added that part. Okay. Yeah, the demolition of southern Lebanon continues here now. Ongoing attacks, and we have a bunch of video and still photos of it. A large detonation on the outskirts of the town of Harris, recorded 3 in the morning, yesterday morning. 6:40 in the morning, artillery shelling in Kafur Rumon. It goes on later in the morning, movement of Aardvarkland military vehicles toward the town of Hula, artillery shelling coinciding with Aardvarkland military movements in Markaba, Aardvarkland detonation in the town of Zwatar al-Shakwarya, a combing operation carried out through Hadassah, artillery shelling in Montessori, artillery shelling being reported, Quinine, and another incident in Montessori. And then here's some of those images of the demolition campaign that continues in southern Lebanon. Detonation targeted Montessori. These are reports out of the Cradle. Right there. They're leveling the entire south of Lebanon. Hell, what's the name said they're going to Beirut or bomb Beirut now. Old Ben Gvir, right? They may take all Lebanon. Hell. Aardvark occupation forces target a village in Bayana Hayyan with artillery shelling, causing a fire to break out subsequently in the town of Anita. Aardvark land forces are setting fires to residential homes. So they salt the earth, poison the well, and arson everything. From Patagonia to Lebanon. Here's some of those images. Quite literal scorched earth policy here now. Burning residential homes in South Lebanon. A series of Aardvark land attacks was reported in southern Lebanon over, let's just say, over the past 24 hours for sake of accuracy here. Here they are. Some damn big explosions they're carrying out there, and arson campaigns as well. And you see right here the roof of that house all destroyed. We'll get to, they're creating an apocalyptic hellscape there in Lebanon as per Gaza. Biet Lif, southern Lebanon, saw artillery shelling and machine gun fire there. Explosion targeted Majal Zun, southern Lebanon. So it's ongoing. Aardvark land occupation forces set fire to olive groves in area between Hadatha and Harris. Right there. Quite literally scorched earth. Committing ecocide, making the area uninhabitable, and they've stated they intend to make it uninhabitable, to make no reason for, and to make it uninhabitable, no reason to go back there and poison the land so bad you can't, even if you wanted to, because you're just crazy. I want to go live in a freaking bomb crater. You know what I mean? I want to go live in rubble. Well, maybe you just have that sentimental attachment to the land. They're poisoning the land. So you go and follow your sentiment and you will die due to the poisoning of the land. It's uninhabitable. Anyhow, continuing more here. Entire neighborhoods are being intentionally wiped out by Aardvark land in southern Lebanon. The United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, reported extensive devastation across southern Lebanon, warning that the entire neighborhoods have been wiped out by Aardvark land attacks and that damage is systematic. As we continue to report here at Weaponized News, speaking to UN Radio, UNIFIL spokesperson Candice Adrell detailed widespread destruction impacting homes, businesses, schools, hospitals, and critical infrastructure such as water, electricity, and road networks spanning from Kafr Khalil to Qaim and Nakur. Adrell emphasized that the crisis extends far beyond physical architecture, driving mass displacement, shattering community networks, and destroying livelihoods in a manner that threatens the long-term viability of safe civilian returns. Well, that's the entire point now, isn't it? Boom. Aardvark land occupation forces target southern Lebanese towns of Maiz Ab al-Jabil with explosion. Here's a big one right here. That's a pretty big one. And then finally, Al-Hadatha obtains exclusive footage of southern Lebanon town Bent Jabil, showing the scale of destruction caused by Aardvark land. It's literally the apocalyptic hellscape. Same routine they did to the Gaza Strip. Take a look at this video. There you go. Creating what the UN referred to as apocalyptic hellscape in Gaza. Very similar scenes in Lebanon. It's ongoing. It's ongoing as we speak. They're bombing the hell out of the place. UN condemns Aardvark land threat to evacuate Gaza areas over kite launches. They did a big massacre over children flying kites. The UN earlier today criticized, I know it's antiseptic, but they criticized the Aardvark land's threat to evacuate residents from areas in Gaza where kites are allegedly launched, condemning unacceptable rhetoric from Aardvark land leaders on the threat of expulsion due to children's kite flying. I hope we can all agree that this is outrageous. UN Rights Office spokeswoman Rivana Samdasani told reporters in Geneva. Aardvark land warned Hamas on Sunday that it would intensify attacks in Gaza if the alleged launch of kites toward Aardvark land continued. Following a recent rise in such incidents, Hamas has denied responsibility. Aardvark land media reported that 4 kites were found in communities near the Gaza border on Saturday, while the army shot down another on Sunday, bringing the number of recovered kites in recent days to around 10. These are threatening weapons of war, akin to Chinese hypersonic missiles, these kites, right? So I feel threatened just by the image of the kite, actually. Aardvark land Channel 12 reported yesterday that 9 kites had been launched from the Gaza Strip toward Aardvark land troops in June, though the incidents were not publicly reported at the time and did not prompt an Aardvark land response. Now they're akin to Chinese hypersonic missiles. Aardvark land occupation forces continue to bomb residential homes in central Gaza as part of a demolition operation. They're blowing the whole place up. Is what they're doing here now. Again, bombing refugees in tents. Whether there's a ceasefire or not, it's the same. There is no difference. 3 Palestinians were killed and several others wounded in an Aardvark land drone strike on Jabilia refugee camp in northern Gaza. An Aardvark land airstrike on a building in Deir al-Balha in central Gaza overnight destroyed a nearby warehouse storing nutrition aid for malnutritioned children, pregnant women, and breastfeeding mothers. Medical aid for Palestinians reported earlier today. Palestinians were killed and wounded in an Aardvark land attack on a home belonging to Al-Ar family behind Kamal Awad Hospital in northern Gaza. And they got a picture of dude blowing up. I won't even show it to you because it's so gory. 3 Palestinians have been killed and a large number wounded in Aardvark land shelling near Abu Hassan School in Jabaliya refugee camp, northern Gaza. There's video of them hauling off dead dude in a sheet. It's all quite horrific. A Palestinian child was shot and wounded by Aardvark land forces in Qalandiya refugee camp north of Jerusalem after troops raided and seized the UNRWA-run training center. And there's video of that, of the Palestinian child getting shot in the back. Again, I won't show it to you because they'll probably say whatever. They'll give me a strike. But anyway, it's quite horrific. Now for something out of all this insanity. Gaza children use Beam as a slide here now, playing in the rubble. To remind you that they are humans here now. Even though Aardvark see them as goy, they see us the same. Understand this. Well, hell, at least they have that beam to slide down in their bombed out city. 10-year-old Pakistani girl, Emil Abdul Kahader, shot in the back by Aardvark land forces and killed in her displacement tent in Kianis, southern Gaza. There's pictures of her in a body bag. I'll spare you the images. Aardvark land has killed at least 15 Palestinians in Gaza over roughly the last 48 hours. According to Gaza's health ministry, 9 Palestinians were killed and 36 others wounded. And that's in the past 24 hours. They're stacking bodies again, increasing the body count there of Palestinians in Gaza. Since the so-called ceasefire on October 11, 2025, the Gaza Ministry of Health says 1,296 Palestinians have been killed, with 4,296 wounded and 814 bodies recovered from the rubble as the genocide continues. French Photo Festival quietly removes Gaza image after pressure from pro-Aardvark land activists. This is the image here. Quite striking, actually. playing soccer there in their bombed out remains. Organizers of the Deauville Sports Image Festival in France discreetly removed a photo taken by Associated Press reporter Jahid Ashrafi al-Sharafi following pressure from pro-Aardvarkland activists, according to a report from iHumate. The image, which was part of the festival's second edition running through September 6th, captures a football match between players from the Gaza Sports Club and Al-Lai on a makeshift pitch surrounded by buildings reduced to ash after Aardvarkland genocide. Yeah, you can't see that picture. It's too disturbing. "41 members of Congress are demanding Secretary of State Little Marco Rubio secure an immediate release of Sama Safi, a 20-year-old U.S. citizen, and Birzeit University student held by Aardvarkland without charge since June 2nd. Oh, they're just kidnapping Americans. They're our greatest ally. Aren't they wonderful? Andy Burham, new puppet prime minister for Big Brother UK, is expected to approve tougher action against Aardvarkland settlements in the occupied West Bank, including a trade ban on settlement-linked goods and sanctions on individuals, according to UK Times. Aardvarkland settler violence in the occupied West Bank surges by 63%. Attacks by ultra-Zionist settlers across the occupied West Bank surged by 63% during the first 7 months of this year compared to the exact same time period last year, 2025, according to data published by Colonization and Wall Resistance Commission. The official Palestinian body recorded a staggering 4,113 aggressive incidents between January and July this year, reflecting an increase of 1,589 violations from the 2,524 cases documented during the prior year. The sharp acceleration coincides with the sweeping expansion of illegal settlements throughout the occupied territory, alongside the systemic arming of settlers who frequently operate under the direct protection or gaze of Aardvarkland occupation forces. Authorities note that the environment of political and legal enablement has transformed these violent acts into an organized instrument for displacing indigenous communities, i.e. ethnic cleansing program. The commission further estimated that the total population of settlers residing across the occupied territories, including East Jerusalem, reached approximately 780,000 by the conclusion of July. It's a lot of ultra-Zionist settlers are hell-bent on taking all of that land. According to local sources, Aardvarkland occupation forces are distributing demolition notices to residents near the separation wall in the town of Kafr Aqab, north of occupied Jerusalem. Well, by the way, we're blowing your house up today. Have a great day. This morning, Aardvarkland's ultra-Zionist settlers blocked the road to Karim Abdul Salem crossing, preventing trucks from carrying aid into Gaza. And so here's these great people, as you can see, blocking aid to refugees. So that's good of them, showing their humanity. The Palestinian Information Center, PIC, reports widespread aardvark land raids, arrests, and ultra-Zionist settler attacks across the occupied West Bank Monday into today. Yeah, it's ongoing. Attacks documented here in Jenin, Tubas, Ramallah, Hebron, Nablus, and Quilyah, and Turkarum, and just a bunch of more details of places I butchered the pronunciation of, so I'll spare you. But no, it's ongoing and it's widespread. Aardvark land forces raided and seized the UNRWA-run vocational training center in Kafr Aqib, north of occupied East Jerusalem, early this morning, storming the compound with 4 armored vehicles and 50 Aardvark land security forces, raising an Aardvark land flag after the raid. Around 40 employees and others inside were detained and questioned before being expelled, with Aardvark land forces firing tear gas around the center. Aardvark land National Security Minister Ben Gvir participated in the raid. The seized UNRWA compound would be replaced with an educational and community center, said Ben Gvir, while claiming the land has been owned by the Aardvark Land National Fund since 1937. The facility, established in 1952 and which had hosted a diplomatic mission on Monday investigating Aardvark land attacks, is UNRWA's oldest vocational training center and trains roughly 340 young Palestinian refugees annually. The seizure marked a shift from raids and restrictions to evictions and imposing control on a United Nations facility. The Jerusalem governorate said in a statement it warned that the move was part of an Aardvark land plan targeting the Palestinian presence and international institutions in Jerusalem. They're taking it all, as they've said. So, old UNRWA, not so much. Not so much there now, with Ben Gvir part of the raid. Aardvark land ultra-Zionist settlers attacked international solidarity activists near Ramallah on earlier this morning, choking and bruising several. During the assault, the activists were attempting to reopen a roadblock by ultra-Zionist settlers when they were attacked with sticks and pepper spray. Separately, 972 Plus magazine reports Aardvark land ultra-Zionist settlers attacked journalists and activists in Janata, including 972 Plus and local call reporter Oren Zeev. That's like the height of antiseptic behavior. That's Aardvark on Aardvark violence. Ultra-Zionist settlers also injured 3 Palestinians earlier today in ongoing attacks and harassment. I do believe 972 Plus magazine's an Aardvark land outfit as well. So like the height of antiseptic hate from ultra-Zionist settlers, even attacking other Aardvarks. Settler attacks on Aardvark land raids in the occupied West Bank, and just more reports. It's ongoing. Targeting agriculture, uprooting olive trees, arson, more reports of arson on agricultural land. Yeah, same routine ongoing there. And then final story of the day here, and we'll get out of here, is Aardvark land lawmaker Tevi Sukkot took a sledgehammer to a Palestinian memorial in the occupied West Bank village of Mad Amma, south of Nablus, while Aardvark land soldiers and border police stood guard. Here's the video of him doing it. Sukkot, a member of Smotric's religious Zionist party, told Haaretz the action was carried out in full coordination with the Aardvark land military, claiming the memorial honored militants who killed dozens of Aardvark soldiers. The military disputes that account, saying it authorized and secured his visit, but was not told he planned to destroy the monument. Here's video of him destroying said monument.
כאן למעלה, ימין פארג', מי מדובר? בחור שהלך ואחראי לרצח של עשרות יהודים, ביניהם אדווה פישר, בחורה בת 19 שעמדה בצומת גאה, ופשוט בא מחבל ורצח אותה. הוא שאל...
He's got something in his throat, I'll spare you that, but he went on to destroy the argument with the sledgehammer there. And posted it on his Instagram account. All right, that's all the reporting we got for today. Is there any heavy kinetic action with Iran since we started this broadcast? No. Looks like there may not be. U.S. blockade pushes Iranian tankers toward Asian waters. Iran UN envoy urges countries to reject U.S. sanctions, warns of response. Iran regime collapse is best outcome of war, former U.S. diplomat says. U.S. blockade pushes Iranian tankers toward Asian waters. Iran parliament speaker ridicules U.S. economic D-Day. We showed you that at the beginning of the show. U.S. expects to keep pressure on Iran through midterms. That's headlines out of Iran International. And then finally, Al Jazeera. See if we got anything different out of these guys. U.S. plans to restore diplomatic staffing in the Middle East. We covered that. U.S. can sustain naval blockade sanctions on Iran indefinitely. We're claiming here now. I think the rest of the world is going to have something to say about it, honestly. U.S. senator accuses Trump of profiting from Iran war via energy holdings. Yeah. Yeah, they're war profiteering all over the place. All right, let's head over now. How did these chats go? Looks like we had a little bit of chats over there. Now to the chats, let's head to Odysee first. Shout out to those tuning in on Odysee. Let's go to that channel now. All right, thank you guys for tuning in on Odysee. Shout out to Huffman, Smack. That woman saying Trump nation straight to the gulag. Deported probably. Shout out to John. Huffman says we just want to keep making up excuses to keep bombing anywhere that agrees to cooperate with China in any capacity. If they do not want China to surpass our economy, they would have made the transfer of our heavy industry to China in the 90s. Yeah, a la NAFTA, right? A la Bill Clinton. John said there on the Odysee. Does the Nobel Commission give awards for the world's most incompetent national leader? Trump would be a shoo-in for that award. Mushrooms will make them laugh. Well, they are high, but I don't know if it will have a lasting effect on depression, John said. There, Let's see. Shout out to Vol. Why didn't they just withhold payments from the date they kicked them out of office? Good question. Are Mitch's staff still claiming money? I'm sure they are. They have a 30, 40-year racket they built there behind old Mitch McConnell, right? A shout out to Oh No. I think that's Fat Bob. He has many accounts. But anyway, shout out to Oh No. What good is Syria army after Aardvark land destroyed all the military equipment? Shout out to Pink. Yeah, they're specializing. Aardvark seem to be specializing in arson worldwide. Patagonia, Greece, Europe, Canada. Pink Vegas says Hawaii, Pacific Palisades. Yep. Seems to be their new fetish is arson here now, their new specialty. All right, guys, thank you for tuning in on the Odysee, keeping that chat lively and informative as usual. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in on Bitchute, Facebook, Substack, Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube. I think that's everybody. Shout out to Ruckus on the YouTube, Platonian, Funk. Shout out to Denver on the Rumble. It's crazy how fast Trump lost this war. King. Trump has destroyed a great economy for the second time. King says the Trump and Herbert Hoover are the only job-killing presidents in U.S. history. I don't know about that, but Trump is China's puppet. King Beast is gay. They say Rug. Shout out to Silver. Shout out to Rug on the YouTube. Silver on the Rumble. Stewart just nuke Iran. The United States is backing down from a terrorist regime as much as you would like it. As much as you would like it. Huh? Isn't backing down. Bro, we've already backed down. You understand they blew the hell out of all of our bases over there, right? Trump's in the Epstein files. God on the YouTube. Shout out to God on the YouTube. A-Dub. Shout out to A-Dub on the YouTube. CJ on the YouTube. TK on the Rumble. Shout out to Mac. Just reading through some of the comments here. Man, another month and the Hoover going to be shut down. Y'all need to be stocking water. Filtration out west. Yeah, I've seen those reports of draining the Colorado River dry, right? Tune's going to get dumped. Maxis. Abraham Lincoln style. I don't know about that. We want no wrongdoings. No bad will there. They're insulting my lips. Sorry. Sorry I have thin lips for you. out there in the troll audience. Trump was mentioned in the Epstein files 38,000 times, Jay says. Was it that many times? It was a lot. They say, do you idiots believe what this delusional man is saying? Read a history book, please. Oh, thank you. We go over this day in history every show. So, weaponized weather news. We've covered that here. Amanda, shout out to Amanda over there. Who's that? Timmer. Happy. They took the Germans' homes. They took the Russians' homes. They take what they want, and the world let them. And same as being done in the West Bank. Yeah. AZ, shout out to AZ on the Rumble. John says Hamas uses women and children as human shields for sympathy from the West. They are not to be trusted. Bro, Aardvark Land created Hamas. And that may very well be true, but there's case after case after case. Hamas is not using kids as human shields. IDF is shooting them. It's pretty well established that is a fact. A la ICC, International Criminal Indictments for War Crimes. Again, Peace Hammer, don't hurt him. And then Philip on the YouTube says Trump is Benjamin's puppet. Ruckus says, haha, so this is where the random brain dead commenters come from. I usually watch the horizontal version. There you go. Nice to see you guys out there. Thank you for insulting my lips, calling me an idiot, say I know nothing about history. I don't know. We have a lot of shows documenting all this. Go take a look. Weaponized News Substack channel. All right, friends. Thank you for tuning in, hanging with me on this Tuesday. As always, everybody do your own research, peace, love, and freedom. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Tuesday evening, and we'll see you back here on Wednesday for more Weaponized News. Reminder, we're going to have John Gold, author, researcher, activist, do the first half at about 9/11. So that shall be interesting and informative. Let's pray for peace, and we'll see you tomorrow for more Weaponized News.